It's another kill screen. Dig Dug is one of the classics from the golden age of arcade gaming. Developed by Namco, distributed in the West by Atari, not quite as enduring as Donkey Kong or Pac-Man. Even q-bert and Mr. Do got more sequels, but it's still a great game, vintage Namco, and as fun as anything you'll find from that era. That aside, this game, like so many of its contemporaries, has a kill screen. There's a stage in the game that just cannot be beaten. It's impossible, and it ends up in an inevitable game over. If you're dedicated enough to the cult of Dig Dug and you manage to make it to round 256, well, you're going to be presented with this. A round where this puka enemy spawns immediately on your head. There's no strategy to beat it, there's no way around it. No matter how many lives you've got, you're going to lose them all to this insta-kill. How does this happen? Well, if you want to find out, keep watching, and if you don't, well, this isn't the video for you. Dig Dug has 15 unique rounds. It's got just 15 level layouts. After round 15, harder versions of the last 4 rounds, 12, 13, 14 and 15, are repeated. And the bug that causes the kill screen comes from the section of code that determines what round the player is on and what level layout needs to be drawn. The round that the player is currently on is stored at a particular location in memory. At the very beginning of a round, the game's code takes this number and does one of 2 things. If the round number is 15 or below, it subtracts 1 from this number and sends this newly adjusted number to another section of code, which then uses it to look up the place in the memory where that level data is stored. If it's 16 or above, it does something slightly different. The details aren't really important, but it does some modular arithmetic and turns the current round number into a number between 12 and 15. And then it does the same thing that it does in the first case. It takes 1 away from it and sends it off to the section of code that looks at where the level data is. The upshot of this is that whatever round the player happens to be on, it'll be turned into a number between 0 and 14, and the game will be able to use that to look up one of its limited selection of level layouts. And this all works great until round 256. That's when we meet an 8-bit integer overflow problem, the source of many a bug in 8-bit systems. You see, the game stores the current round number in a single byte, or 8 bits. Counting from 0, the highest number you can store in 8 bits is 255. If you go any higher than that, if you add 1 to 255 with an 8-bit counter, well, it wraps around and goes back to 0. This is what happens on level 256, and it results with the number 0 being put into the level data lookup code that I described before. 0 is less than 15, so the code looks at it, takes 1 away from it, and sends it onto the section of code which looks up the appropriate level data. What happens when you take 1 away from 0 with an 8-bit counter? Well, it goes back to 255. The game's code then starts trying to draw the non-existent level 255's level layout on the screen. Instead of being sensible level layout data, it just starts copying data from an entirely unrelated section of the game onto the screen. And we end up with a weird level where the puka spawns instantly on Dig Dug's head. Fixing this problem wouldn't be particularly difficult, just a small addition to the code would do it. And in fact, the Atari release of this game does have that. There's a little section of code that checks if the round number is 0, and if it is, sets it back to 156. This would allow the game to run on forever with no kill screen. Although for reasons unknown, although the code's there, it's never used. Seems like the developers must have been aware of the kill screen but decided to leave it in. Maybe they thought that arcade operators would prefer it, that even the best players would have an ultimately limited playing time. And that's it, that's the Dig Dug kill screen. Another minor mystery of classic gaming laid bare for you. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. And if you haven't enjoyed this video, well, I don't know why you've watched this far. Go and watch something else.